I didn't think much of it at first, and honestly, I wish I had trusted that feeling in my gut the very first time her phone lit up with his name, because looking back now, that was probably the last moment things were still simple, still normal, still something I could have walked away from without feeling like I was slowly losing my grip on reality, but instead I stayed, I watched, I listened, and I convinced myself that I was overthinking, that I was being insecure, that I was about to ruin something good over nothing, and that's how it started, not with a big betrayal, not with a clear lie, just small things that didn't sit right but weren't enough to accuse someone you loved of anything real. Her name is Emily, and we had been together for almost 3 years at that point, living together for one, sharing bills, routines, grocery lists, stupid inside jokes, and the kind of quiet comfort that makes you believe you've already figured life out earlier than you probably should, and for a long time, everything felt stable, predictable in a good way, the kind of relationship where you stop questioning things because there's never been a reason to, and maybe that's exactly why I ignored the signs when they first showed up. It started with a name I didn't recognize. Ryan. I remember it clearly because it popped up on her phone while we were watching something on Netflix, and she didn't panic or hide it. She just casually picked up her phone, glanced at the message, and replied quickly, almost too quickly, like it was something she didn't want to leave unanswered for even a minute, and when I asked who it was, she didn't hesitate, she just said, "Oh, that's Ryan, he's new at work." In the most normal tone possible, like there was absolutely nothing behind it, and at that moment, I believed her, because why wouldn't I? There was no history of lying, no red flags before that, nothing that would justify suspicion. But then it kept happening. Not in an obvious way, not in a way that screams cheating or betrayal, just small repeated patterns that slowly start to form something you can't ignore anymore, like how his name would come up more often than anyone else from her office, how she would smile slightly when reading his messages but brush it off if I looked at her, how she started bringing him up in conversation in a casual way, like mentioning something funny he said or something annoying he did, always neutral, always harmless, but frequent enough that I started noticing. Still, I said nothing, because saying something would mean admitting I was bothered, and I didn't want to be that guy, the insecure boyfriend who gets weird over a coworker, especially when she gave me no real reason to doubt her, at least not something I could prove, so I kept it to myself, and life went on, at least on the surface. Then came the late nights. At first, it was just work. Or at least that's what she said. Deadlines, projects, team pressure, all the usual excuses that make sense in the moment, especially when you want to believe them, and I did believe them. I even supported her, told her I was proud of her, told her it would all be worth it, told her not to stress too much, and maybe that's the part that still bothers me the most, not what she did later, but how genuine I was while she was already starting to drift somewhere else. She began staying up later, sometimes sitting on the couch with her laptop, sometimes in bed scrolling through her phone, always saying she was just finishing something, but more and more often, I'd notice that she wasn't really working, she was texting, and I didn't need to see the screen to know who it was. Ryan. And then one night, something changed. It was around 2 a.m., and I woke up randomly, the kind of half-conscious wake-up where you don't even know why you're awake, but something feels off, and that's when I saw it. Her side of the bed was empty, and the faint light from the living room was still on, which wasn't unusual by itself, but what made it different was the silence, no typing, no movement, just that dim light cutting through the darkness. I got up, slowly, not even fully aware of why I felt the need to check, maybe curiosity, maybe instinct, maybe something deeper that I didn't want to admit yet, and as I got closer to the living room, I could see her sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand, staring at the screen with this expression I had never seen before, something soft, something distant, something that didn't belong to me. She didn't notice me at first. And that's when her phone lit up again. I didn't need to see the full message. Just the name. Ryan. And the preview text. "Wish you were here." I froze. Not because it was definitive proof of anything, not because it confirmed the worst immediately, but because in that exact moment, something inside me shifted, something quiet but irreversible, like a line had been crossed, even if neither of us had said it out loud yet. She quickly locked her phone when she noticed me standing there, her face changing instantly, back to normal, back to casual, back to the version of herself I had known for years, and she smiled, just slightly, and said, "You're awake?" Like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just seen what I saw. And I did something I still don't fully understand. I smiled back. I nodded. And I said, "Eh? Just couldn't sleep." I didn't ask about the message. I didn't ask about Ryan. I didn't ask why someone from work would text her that at 2 a.m. Instead, I went back to bed. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying that moment over and over again, trying to find a version of reality where it meant nothing, where it was just a misunderstanding, where I was still safe inside the life I thought we had. But deep down, I already knew. Something wasn't right. And for the first time in 3 years, I realized I wasn't sure who I was sharing that bed with anymore. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I just lay there with my eyes closed, pretending, listening to the subtle sounds of her moving around the apartment, the soft creak of the couch, the faint vibration of her phone every now and then, each one hitting me like a quiet reminder that something was happening just out of my reach, something I wasn't part of anymore. And the worst part wasn't even the possibility that she was cheating, it was the realization that she was slowly becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone who could look at me the way she did in the living room and act like nothing had changed. By the time morning came, I had already made a decision, not a dramatic one, not the kind where you confront, yell, or demand answers, but something quieter, colder, more controlled, because if there was one thing I understood in that moment, it was this. If I rushed, if I accused her without proof, she would deny everything, twist it, make me feel like I was imagining things, and I'd end up being the one apologizing, the one questioning myself, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So I acted normal. Too normal, maybe. I made coffee, I asked her how she slept, I even joked about something stupid we saw on Netflix the night before, and she responded like she always did, relaxed, comfortable, like the girl I had known for 3 years. And if I hadn't seen that message, if I hadn't stood there in the dark watching her face lit up by her phone, I probably would have believed that everything was fine. But now I was paying attention. Every little detail. The way she kept her phone face down more often. The way she took it with her even when she went to the bathroom. The way she would sometimes smile at her screen and then quickly wipe it away when she noticed me looking. None of it was proof. But all of it together was enough. I didn't check her phone. Not yet. Because I knew if I did it too early and found nothing, I'd lose my edge, I'd start doubting myself again, and she'd get more careful if she ever suspected anything. So instead, I waited, I observed, I let the pattern build until it became something undeniable. And it didn't take long. 2 nights later, she told me she had to stay late at work again, something about a last-minute issue with a project, her tone casual, almost rehearsed, like she had said it enough times that it didn't even feel like a lie anymore. And I nodded, told her to text me when she was heading home, kissed her goodbye like everything was normal. But this time, I didn't stay home. About 30 minutes after she left, I grabbed my keys and followed. Not right behind her, not close enough to be obvious, just enough to keep track, and I told myself I was crazy while doing it, that this was the kind of thing people regret, the moment you cross from trust into suspicion, from partner into someone who spies, but at the same time, something inside me was calm, focused, like I was finally doing what I should have done the moment I saw that message. She didn't go to the office. That was the first thing. Instead, she drove past it. Didn't even slow down. And my chest tightened, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in that quiet, sinking way where everything starts to make sense and fall apart at the same time. I kept following. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 15. Until she pulled into a parking lot I didn't recognize at first, a small, dimly lit place next to a bar that I knew wasn't anywhere near her workplace, and I parked a little further away, far enough that she wouldn't notice, close enough that I could still see her car. She didn't get out right away. She sat there, waiting. And I felt something I hadn't felt before, not anger, not even jealousy, just this heavy, crushing certainty that whatever was about to happen would change everything, that there was no going back after this, no version of the story where this was all just a misunderstanding. Then another car pulled in. But parked right next to hers. And I knew. Even before I saw him. Even before the door opened. I knew. Ryan. He stepped out, and I watched as he walked over to her side, leaned slightly toward the window, and she rolled it down, and they started talking, casual at first, like 2 people who had done this before, like this wasn't new, like this wasn't a one-time thing. Then she laughed. That same laugh. The one she used with me. And something inside me snapped, not outwardly, not in a way anyone could see, but internally, like a switch flipping from confusion to clarity. Because that laugh wasn't accidental. It wasn't friendly. It was familiar. Too familiar. A few seconds later, she opened the door and stepped out, and for a brief moment, they just stood there, facing each other, close, closer than coworkers should ever be, closer than people who are just friends ever stand, and I held my breath without realizing it, like I was waiting for something, maybe hoping for something that would prove me wrong. But instead, he reached out. And she didn't pull away. He touched her arm, then her waist, and then he kissed her. Not hesitant, not unsure, not something you do by mistake. It was practiced, comfortable, like they had done it before. More than once. I didn't move. I didn't react. Just watched. Because in that exact moment, everything became very, very clear. There was no more doubt. No more overthinking. No more, maybe I'm wrong. I had my answer. And strangely enough, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel like yelling, didn't feel like running over there and confronting them, didn't feel like making a scene. I felt calm. Cold. Focused. Because now it wasn't about finding out the truth anymore. Now it was about what I was going to do with it. I stayed there for a few more minutes, watching them talk, watching her smile at him the same way she used to smile at me, and then I quietly started my car and drove away, not fast, not recklessly, just steady, controlled, like nothing had happened. But everything had. When I got home, the apartment felt different. Not empty, not sad, just unfamiliar. Like I was standing in someone else's life. And for the first time, I didn't think about confronting her. I didn't think about asking why. I didn't think about fixing anything. Instead, I walked into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and looked around slowly, taking in every detail, every shared memory, every piece of a life that suddenly didn't feel like mine anymore. And then I did something she would never expect. I smiled. Because for the first time since this all started, I wasn't the one in the dark anymore. I didn't confront her when she got home that night, even though every logical part of me knew I had more than enough reason to, more than enough proof to end everything right there, to look her in the eyes and ask her how long it had been going on, to watch her try to lie and see how far she'd go before breaking. But I didn't do any of that, because somewhere between watching her in that parking lot and driving back home, I realized something that changed the way I saw all of this, something simple but dangerous. She thought I didn't know. And that was power. When she walked through the door around midnight, she acted exactly the way I expected her to, slightly tired, a little distant, but still composed, still believable if you didn't know what I knew. She dropped her bag on the chair, kicked off her shoes, and gave me that small smile like everything was normal, like she hadn't just been with someone else less than an hour ago, and for a second, I almost admired how effortlessly she switched back into that role. "Hey, you're still up?" she asked, her voice soft, careful. "Yeah," I said, not even looking up from my phone, keeping my tone neutral, almost bored, like nothing about tonight mattered. She walked over, leaned down, and kissed me on the cheek. And that was the moment I felt it. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just clarity. Because the girl who kissed me in that moment wasn't the same person I thought I had been living with, and maybe she hadn't been for a while. I didn't pull away. I didn't react. I just let it happen. Because I was already somewhere else mentally, already thinking 3 steps ahead, already planning something she would never see coming. The next morning, I took a day off work. She didn't question it. She was too busy getting ready, too focused on her own routine, her own messages, her own double life, and as she stood in front of the mirror doing her makeup, I watched her quietly from the bed, noticing things I had ignored before, like how she checked her phone between every step, how she smiled at something on the screen and then caught herself, how she angled the phone slightly away from me without even realizing it. "Busy day?" I asked casually. "Yeah, in meetings all day," she said, not looking at me. "Of course. Meetings." I nodded, like I believed her. Like I always had. After she left, I didn't waste time. I went straight to her laptop. Now, I know how this sounds, and a week ago, I probably would have judged someone for doing exactly what I was about to do, But things change when you realize you're the only one still playing by the rules, and at that point, I wasn't looking for permission, I was looking for the truth. Her laptop wasn't locked. That surprised me. Or maybe it shouldn't have. People get careless when they think they're safe. I opened it, half expecting to find nothing, half hoping I'd find everything, and for a few minutes, it was just normal stuff, emails, work files, random tabs, nothing that screamed betrayal, nothing that confirmed what I had seen, and I almost laughed at myself, almost convinced myself that maybe I was overreacting again. Until I opened her messages. Not her phone. Her laptop. Synced. And that's when everything shifted again. Because it wasn't just Ryan. There were conversations. Long ones. Weeks, maybe months. Flirting at first. Then something more. Plans. Inside jokes. Things she used to say to me. But that wasn't the part that hit the hardest. It was the tone. The way she talked to him. Open. Honest. More honest than she had been with me in a long time. And then I saw something that made me stop completely. A message from her. I can't keep lying to him forever. I stared at it longer than I probably should have, my mind trying to process what that meant, trying to understand where this was going, and for a brief moment, I thought maybe she was planning to leave me, maybe this was heading toward some kind of ending, some kind of truth finally coming out. But then I read his reply. You don't have to, just a little longer. Once it's done, you won't need him anymore. I felt my chest tighten. Not from jealousy. Not from betrayal. But from something else. Something colder. Because that didn't sound like an affair anymore. That sounded like a plan. And suddenly, this wasn't just about her cheating. This was something else entirely. I kept scrolling. Further back. Deeper. And the more I read, the less this looked like a relationship and the more it started to look like something calculated, something intentional, something that had been building long before I ever noticed Ryan's name on her phone. There were mentions of money. Vague at first. Then clearer. My name came up. More than once. And that's when it hit me. Not emotionally. Logically. Because everything started connecting in a way I hadn't seen before, things I had ignored, things I had trusted without question, like how I had recently added her to my main account, for convenience, how we had talked about future investments, shared finances, long-term plans, things that seemed normal at the time, things couples do when they trust each other. But now it looked different. Now it looked like I had been slowly positioned into something. Something I didn't agree to. Something I didn't even know was happening. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, replaying everything in my head, every conversation, every decision, every moment I had chosen trust over doubt, and for the first time since this all started, I felt something close to anger. Not explosive. Not reckless. Controlled. Focused. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. This wasn't just about Ryan. This was about me being played. And I don't lose games I didn't even know I was playing. I closed the laptop slowly, carefully, making sure everything was exactly how I found it, no trace, no sign that I had seen anything, that I knew anything, because if there was one thing I was absolutely certain about now, it was this. They thought they were ahead. They thought I was still in the dark. They thought I was the weak one in this situation. And that was their biggest mistake. Because now, I knew exactly what they were planning. And more importantly, I knew how to let them think they were winning. I didn't rush. That was the most important part. Because people like them, people who think they're smarter than everyone else, they don't expect patience, they expect emotion, they expect you to explode, to confront, to break down and make mistakes. And that's where they win, that's where they stay in control, but I wasn't going to give them that. Not this time. For the next few days, I played my role perfectly. If anything, I became better. More attentive. More relaxed. I cooked dinner. I asked about her day. I even started small conversations about the future again, subtle ones, just enough to make her feel safe, just enough to lower whatever guard she might have had left, and I could see it working. I could see the way she started relaxing around me again, the way she stopped watching her words so carefully, the way she smiled a little more freely when she thought I wasn't paying attention. And Ryan? He got bolder. I didn't need to follow her anymore. I didn't need to check anything. Because now I knew where to look. Their messages became less cautious. More direct. They talked about timelines. About when everything would be done. About moving forward. And every time I read those words, I didn't feel hurt. I felt prepared. Because while they were planning their future, I was rewriting mine. The first thing I did was simple, quiet, legal. I removed her access to everything. Not in an obvious way, not something she'd notice immediately, but step by step, account by account, permissions adjusted, security updated, everything locked down in a way that would only become clear when it was too late for her to do anything about it. Then I went further. I transferred my savings. Closed joint options. Changed beneficiaries. Every single thing that had my name on it became mine again. Untouchable. And I did it all without her noticing. Because she wasn't paying attention anymore. She was too busy living in the version of the future she thought she had already secured. But I wasn't done. Because walking away quietly wasn't enough. Not after what I saw. Not after what I read. Not after realizing that I wasn't just being betrayed. I was being used. So I waited. For the right moment. And it came sooner than I expected. One night, she told me she was going out with coworkers, something casual, just drinks, nothing serious, her tone light, almost careless, like she didn't even feel the need to make it convincing anymore, and I smiled, told her to have fun, told her to text me when she got home. She didn't. Of course she didn't. Instead, around 11 p.m., I grabbed my keys. Not to follow her, but to finish it. I drove straight to that same parking lot. The one where everything became clear. And they were there. Just like before. Same spot. Same pattern. Only this time, I didn't stay in the shadows. I stepped out of the car and walked toward them. Slowly. Calmly. No hesitation. No anger. Just certainty. They didn't notice me at first. Too busy laughing. Too comfortable. Too confident. Until I was close enough. And that's when she saw me. Her face changed instantly. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. Real fear. Because in that exact moment, she understood. I knew. Hey, I said, my voice steady, almost casual, like this was just another normal conversation, like we were just three people standing in a parking lot for no reason at all. Neither of them spoke. Ryan looked confused at first. Emily didn't. She just stared at me. Frozen. I just wanted to save you both some time, I continued, glancing between them. Whatever you think you were building, it's gone. Ryan frowned. What are you talking about? I almost smiled. Because that's the thing about people like him. They think they're in control. Until they realize they were never part of the real game. She can explain, I said, nodding slightly toward Emily. But the short version? There's nothing left to take. That's when it hit her. You could see it. The exact second the pieces connected in her head. Her eyes widened. Her breathing changed. And for the first time since I had known her, she looked completely powerless. What did you do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for a brief moment, I saw the person I used to love. And then it was gone. I stopped being stupid, I said simply. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Final. Ryan stepped back slightly, clearly starting to understand that whatever this was, it wasn't what he signed up for, his confidence fading as quickly as it appeared, and Emily, she just stood there, like she was trying to figure out if there was anything left she could say, anything she could fix. There wasn't. I'm done, I said, turning away, already walking back toward my car, because there was nothing left to prove, nothing left to argue, no reason to stay in a moment that had already ended. Wait, she called out, her voice breaking now, finally real, finally emotional. We need to talk. I stopped. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to say one last thing. Without turning around, I said, no, you needed to be honest. And then I got in my car and drove away. No yelling. No scene. No second chances. Just silence. The kind that doesn't leave room for anything else. When I got back home, the apartment felt different again. But this time, it felt right. I walked into the bedroom, looked around one last time, and for the first time in days, maybe weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not because I won, but because I refused to lose. And somewhere out there, in a parking lot that didn't matter anymore, Two people were finally realizing they had played the wrong person.